Well, welcome into Coffee Conversations. My name is Josh.
I'm Anna.
And we're excited to talk a little bit today about this past Sunday's message, where we had kind of a one-off Sunday. We weren't in the middle of a series anymore. We're in between series.
Wow, that's a new word.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We're in between these series. Where we ended Radio Jesus, we're going to be going into one called Back to School, about how to study the Bible and why, and how to look at it with context and all of this. Not like your normal Sunday school sort of thing.
Right.
But this is an actual cool thing. So I hope everybody will tune in and be part of that. But here in this sandwiched in Sunday, we talked about the bread of life.
We did. Look at that. Bread, sandwich.
Bread. Oh, I didn't even mean to do that.
Nuh-uh.
I did not.
I thought you were planning it.
I wish I was.
That was good.
I don't think I'm smart enough to do it,
Wow.
but it worked out.
Well, you did it.
That
was good. Yes.
Dumb luck wins.
I will say I was more hungry this Sunday during worship than I have been in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because bread is so central.
It is, yes, yeah.
I just don't feel as full when I don't have some kind of grain action going on. Like I'll eat, like a lot of protein, but I'm still kind of hungry. I still need a little something extra.
Yeah,
in there.
I love carbs.
Yeah, don't we all? Good old carb
Good
Sunday.
Stuff. Yes.
Jesus, the carbs of life.
The carbs of life.
Eternity carbs.
This is good. Ooh.
New band name called it.
Okay.
All right, so we talked about the bread of life and Jesus saying, I am the bread of life. Mm-hmm. What resonated with you? What kind of landed with you? Or maybe was there anything else that you thought, man, I wish we talked more about that?
I hadn't really thought about, like, in ancient times, and even really, like, now, too. Like, people who provide food, like, we trust those people, and they have control. And I thought that was a great point, because then it did make me start thinking about the bread of life, and I was like, if Jesus is the one who is the bread, is the one who is in charge, like, am I really giving him control of my life? And I hadn't thought about it in that way before, but it was such a good point, especially as we are starting the school year. Like, what does that look like for the school year? And I think in school years because of students, but like for Jesus to be the one in control and to allow him to actually be the essential bread of life.
Right. Yeah, because when you don't have enough food. So actually in the ancient world, bread just became this overall metaphor for food, right? Mm-hmm. It was when you're talking about bread, right? So same way if you were talking about like, hey, money.
Right.
Well, or you can say dollars. What, I'm not just talking about dollar bills. I could also be talking about coins and other things, pennies and nickels. So, but it just became this overall metaphor for food in general. And the thing about food is, if you don't eat it, you're going to die. But before you die, you're going to have less and less energy. Mm-hmm. And in the case of many people in my family, you're going to be more and more cranky. I mean, I'm not kidding. It makes me laugh because I'm not this way. I don't get like that. But the most loving people in my family, if they don't get some snacks in them, they get cranky, man.
Hangry. I absolutely get that way.
So you're.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can tell when I've not eaten enough.
Yeah, you start throwing things at people and.
I mean.
So as we get hangry though, right? Like, so it gets worse and worse. So imagine then if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I've got this, whatever your favorite food is or your favorite snack, and you're starving," and then they go, "But I'm just gonna let you look at it." Right? Would you want to sit there and talk about whatever that is, right? Like, would you want to sit there, for me, I don't know, something like a Hot Pocket. I love a good old, I love a Hot Pocket. Grew up on them at the baseball fields, waiting on them. Very cheesy, right? But if somebody say, "Hey, I've got this Hot Pocket," am I just going to sit there and talk about that Hot Pocket? Not a chance. If I'm starving, if I'm hungry, I'm going to start asking, "Hey, any chance I can eat that?"
Absolutely.
And if they tell me no, any chance you want to fight about it?
Yeah.
If I'm that, you know what I mean? If I'm that hungry, And I think that where we often find ourselves in trouble as Christians, as followers of Jesus, or at least people who claim to be followers of Jesus, where we often find ourselves in trouble is we're doing this talking about Jesus, the bread of life, rather than, forgive the metaphor, consuming, right? Rather than actually having Jesus be central to our life, we're doing so much of this talking about it. And because we're just talking about it, we're getting spiritually hangry with people.
Yeah.
And that's where we see this stupid stuff online. And it really is stupid. It's dumb. Like the things we argue about, the things we worry about, the self-centeredness.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. And I think a lot of it becomes from a lack of recognizing Jesus as the bread of life, the energy that should be fueling our life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I kept thinking about, with the Israelites and the manna and the idea of like, you can only gather enough for the day. And like, God is going to continually provide, and he did for the people each and every day. It's the daily, like, give us this day our daily bread. This idea of like, so often I am worried about things or like trying to plan ahead or things like that, and forgetting that like God's going to take care of needs every day. I don't have to like, I don't know, like scrounge about and be worried about things, because it's going to be okay. But I think a lot of that worriness and anxiety comes also when we're like fighting with other people. Like it kind of all is encompassed together, where we're not like trusting that like every day it's gonna be okay, and he's gonna provide each and every. He's enough. It's like the song we sang right before that, which I know is on purpose, but like Jesus is enough. You are enough, Jireh. Like that. Just it was a good reminder to me. Like he provided every day exactly what they needed, and if they got more, it's spoiled, because that's what they weren't supposed to do. Right.
That Jireh literally means provider. Right? So God is providing for us. I think sometimes we forget that, and then we get so wrapped up in trying to provide for ourselves.
Yeah.
That then we make things work. Isn't it funny? Like when we start, I just use an overall word of anxiety, right, to talk about tension, anger, or all this generalized anxiety. It just seems to snowball.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm worried about this. I allow myself to keep worrying about this. Well, then suddenly I'm also worried about this over here, and that builds into tension and anxiety or anger about other things. And I don't know about you, but I find people who seem to live in a perpetual state of like anxiousness about the world.
Right.
And about life in general. And I wonder, like, I don't really wonder. I know it doesn't have to be like this.
Right, exactly. And when I find myself in those times, it's when I'm spiritually hangry. Like, it's when I'm not allowing God to be the energy. It's when I'm, like, storing up the energy myself and not allowing him to be the one that I'm trusting in. And that's when I know, when I start feeling that in myself, it's like, okay, step back and think about how much am I praying? How much am I reading my Bible? Like, is there something different from a week ago when I wasn't as anxious? Maybe other things have gotten in the way. And so I have to, like, step back and think, like, okay, actually I'm spiritually hangry in those moments.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes we need to remember and be reminded of strategies, right? So when you say, I need this daily bread, somebody might need some help knowing what that means.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to receive this daily bread. Like, how do we go about doing our part in that, so that we don't get the spiritual hangries?
Yeah. I think it's like, I think I can tell a difference when I start my day by, like, acknowledging that God's a part of it or not. And so, like, for me, that means, like, if I'm picking up my phone and I'm scrolling a whole bunch on Instagram or things as the first thing in the day, before I'm, like, perhaps even just like saying, "Good morning, God," or like even just praying first, I can tell that I'm like not in a good place.
Yeah.
Like if I'm scrolling and then like, 30 minutes later, I'm still laying in bed looking at my phone like, okay, like that. I mean, for me, I have to start the day like praying or just acknowledging that God's in control, or not picking up my phone first, maybe to like, turn off my alarm. But that's like one thing for me that I know where my focus is the first thing in the morning is going to determine kind of where I'm at the rest of the day.
Gotcha. So what that sounds like for somebody like me is I'm getting my inspiration early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So whether it be through prayer,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I'm reading about Jesus or something Jesus said or Paul said, I'm getting my inspiration for the day early on.
Right. Yes.
And I think the truth is we have to allow ourselves to be inspired because you're going to be inspired by something, whether it's in prayer or your phone or somebody else starting to make you worry about something.
Yes. Yeah.
What's going to set your inspiration? So I'm setting it for the day. Another thing I was thinking about, I think that we need to really live into the difficult side of following Jesus. And so often we try to avoid that, and we don't want to burden people. Like, no, Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Come to me, all you who are weary. We misunderstand what Jesus is saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's saying, I'm not here to make you think about 613 laws and statutes all the time.
Right.
But he also said, the way is narrow, right? The gate is go through the narrow gate. Like, this is difficult stuff. Following Jesus is supposed to be difficult. And you know what I found in my life? After I've done difficult things, I'm really happy about it.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Like, so you run a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You're running a lot.
I am running a lot, yes.
And this is somewhat of a newer venture,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Over the last how many years?
2, 3, 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't always run. You're training for a marathon right now.
I am.
Shout out.
Week 6 begins today.
There we go. So you're training for a marathon, and that's difficult.
Yes.
But don't you feel better, like, when you go out and you do your runs?
Yes. Yeah. Like the motivation to get out there is very difficult.
Yeah.
But once I'm done, absolutely. And I've like found for myself, like, I have to be consistent in it, because if I think like, oh, I'll just run at some point today, like, it's not going to happen. And so it really has been a lot of thinking about spiritual life in the same way with running. Like, 'cause it's like, if I'm just going to like plug in time to spend with the Lord, it might not happen. So I have to be consistent in the same way I'm being consistent with running. Like, I have to make plan and carve out time for that too, because I can't just like, oh, maybe it'll happen. No, because then life gets in the way and yeah.
Right. I do the same thing with the gym.
Yeah.
Because I hate to run. I get so bored. But no, so for years I worked out, where you do we're going to do 10 reps and 3 sets of 10 reps on each lift or each exercise, right? And you change it out during the day. And I did that for years. And then I started doing this other workout where it was a lot of high intensity interval training stuff. And I would have to run sometimes. Other times I'd ride a bike. Other times I'd be jumping up and down off of stuff. But I was always lifting things too. And, but it was such high intensity that I didn't get bored. And I didn't realize it. But over the year, I guess it's been a year and a half since I started doing that. I got really used to the speed of things and keeping busy. It's harder. It's much more difficult. So probably about 6 months ago, I kind of, my knees were hurting and whatever, and I needed to take a break from the high intensity stuff. So I went back to what I always had done, and I was so bored.
Yeah.
I was so bored. I was like, this is the worst. This is the worst. And what I also found was I didn't feel like I had worked as much, and I wasn't as satisfied with the workout.
Right.
Now, applying all of this, the running and this, right, you got to, sometimes I look at these high-intensity workouts I'm supposed to be doing, and I go, oh, no. That's going to be the worst. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Mm-mm.
But having the discipline to go ahead and push myself to do that, having the discipline to get out there and run, even when you don't want to,
Right.
right? You get done with it, and you suddenly go, I feel so much better about life.
Yeah. I can, like, do anything right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm, like, the most confident when I'm done.
I think we've
Yeah.
got to do hard things in our spiritual life.
Exactly.
I think we've got to do difficult stuff. Like, we've got to put ourselves in position. If we want to get this daily bread thing, what that means sometimes is you've got to have that invigorating conversation where you invite somebody into faith.
Right.
You've got to do the hard thing of taking home that smelly guy from church who doesn't have a ride home and asking him about his life. You've
Right.
got to do that sort of thing. Not everybody wants to do that. Let's just call a spade a spade. But it's in those moments where the difficult stuff happens. Our faith grows and we receive that daily bread. And I've found when I'm doing the difficult stuff, when I'm setting my inspiration early in the day and I'm doing the difficult things and I'm treating my faith journey as more of a faith adventure that I get to be a part of, I find that I'm happier. I have less worry. I have less anxiety about stuff. I'm not angry at everybody. The spiritual hangriness is gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not spending time worried about what somebody else has done. I'm not spending time wanting to gossip about stuff because I got my time filled up with other good stuff.
Right. You're fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what Jesus is after.
I think so too.
Anyway, well, it's been fun talking with you as always.
So fun.
Until next time, have a great week and we'll see you on Coffee Conversations.